A mountain of sliced onions can only mean one thing.
Hey, it's Diana of Cauldron and Crafts. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, I post videos ranging from food to crafts and gardening with the overall theme of pulling through a nature-based spiritual practice into your everyday life. Today's video is going to be really quick, and it's just me making some French onion soup, which I've made a couple times before, both in the traditional sense, like on the stove, and I've also made it in an old-fashioned crock pot. In this video, I'm going to make it in my Crock Pot Express, which is the crock pot version of an Instant Pot, which I like to think of as my high-tech cauldron because it can do the work of a regular crock pot or stovetop cooking really fast, and I really like it. I mostly use it for making yogurt, which I have a video several months ago where I show you how to make yogurt in your Crock Pot Express or Instant Pot, and that's why I bought it. But I've also enjoyed trying other recipes that otherwise can take a really long time. So let's get started.
We're starting with 3 pounds of sweet onions sauteed on the brown saute setting on high on the crock pot. So I'm going to turn my fan on to hopefully keep this onion smell out of my house.
I love French onion soup, and if it's available at a restaurant that I'm going to, I always get it. And I've only made it at home once, and it was kind of a disaster. I have a glass top stove, so it was really hard to keep the temperature even. And then my house smelled like onions for a very long time, which I love onions, but I don't like my house smelling like onions. So this is the first time I'm actually going to try to make it in my Crock Pot Express, which is the crock pot version of an Instant Pot. And let's see how it goes.
This is the temperature inside my house right now. It's been about 20 minutes that the onions have been sauteing on the brown saute setting, and we're starting to see some browning. We now have caramelized onions, so I'm going to go ahead and add the salt and pepper and garlic and let it cook for a minute, and then we're going to add the wine. It's 1 teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, along with about 3 cloves of garlic.
So we're gonna let the wine reduce by half. It was 1.5 cups that I started with, and at one time I heard that you should use red wine for French onion soup because you're using a beef broth. But now the recipes I've seen call for a dry white wine, which I used this single serving white wine because I'm not much of a wine drinker. However, I did taste it and I do really like it.
Now that the wine has reduced some, I'm going to add the beef broth. And it's 8 cups. And I'm using bouillon. The recipe called for thyme sprigs, but I didn't get that. So I'm just going to use a little sprinkle of dry. So now I'm going to turn off the brown saute setting. Because the lid won't attach if that setting is turned on this particular model. So we're gonna lock that, make sure the pressure is turned to sealed, and then we're going to use the soup, which is high, but we're only gonna cook it for 20 minutes instead of 30, and then hit start, and see you in about 20 minutes. now we're gonna release the pressure, which normally recipes say to wait about 10 minutes after releasing pressure, but this recipe came from the Crockpot Express website and it says to immediately release the pressure, and it's been 4 minutes. So here we go. If you release the pressure too soon or too fast, then liquids inside can actually spurt out of this. And I've never done that, and I don't want to do that today, so I'm going really slow. So I'm pretty sure all the pressure's released, and actually the pot won't unlock until it has released all of its pressure, so. And as you can see, it's still simmering. Which is something to note whenever you're using a pressure cooker, is that the cooking time is not the only time that the food is cooking. It smells amazing. Traditional way to make French onion soup is to then put your bowl in the oven under the broiler for a few minutes to brown the Gruyere cheese. And I'm actually not going to do that because I'm using my oven for something else. So I'm going to pop it in the microwave, and then I have a little trick up my sleeve to get that browning on top. This recipe was really easy, and I would definitely make French onion soup this way again. And the primary reason is because cooking the onions was so much easier in the Crockpot Express than it was on the stove, or even when I made the French onion soup in an old crockpot before, you had to caramelize the onions overnight, so it took a really long time to cook, and it smelled pretty delicious, but then the whole house smelled like onions. Whereas the Crockpot Express saute function is so even and it cooks so well that it took maybe 30 to 40 minutes to fully caramelize the onions, and then everything else was really fast. It did take a bit for the pot to come up to pressure, so that adds to the cook time. Like, it's not just 20 minutes as soon as you lock the lid on. And I will also say that sacrificing the temperature in the house to air out the house and like blow the fan really did help with the onion smell, because it's actually now the next day and I can smell it a little bit, but no worse than if I cooked fried rice or something else like that where I was cooking onions on the stove. So definitely we'll make this again, and it's going to be my lunch for the rest of the week. And thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, feel free to like and subscribe, and I upload most Sundays, and I'll see you next time. Bye.